Anna, welcome
Hi.
to Our Time to Rise. We are so happy to have you here today.
Well, I'm so happy to be with you both. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're calling you our resident expert, our resident holiday gathering expert. We met you through our friend Sarah Harmeyer, and she said, You
Mhm.
have to know Anna. She's chef extraordinaire. She is the yellow table maven. She is the gatherer, and Sarah's a gatherer too. So she really
She
appreciates other
is,
gatherers.
yeah.
And we just knew that we had to know you. And you came to our retreat this year, and
Yeah.
we had an instant connection. And it is
Mm,
just so fun to have you here to talk about how, over the next couple of months, the holiday season, that we can really be people who gather
mhm,
well and
mhm,
who honor people. And that's really your expertise. So start
mm,
by talking to us about let's just go to the why. Let's start there.
mhm,
Why do we
mhm,
gather this time of year? I mean, we all know the obvious answer, but maybe
mhm,
take us a little deeper.
mhm. Well, I would say for the holidays, I mean, Thanksgiving, Christmas, we've got this whole season. We gather to connect, and we gather to connect generally with there's a lot of family gatherings, people you haven't seen in a long time, and then with friends. But the goal at least is to um just come together and to celebrate for Thanksgiving. We're celebrating what we're thankful for. We're celebrating this beautiful meal. There's all the traditions that come along with that. And then for Christmas, um, there's just a series of gatherings. I think one of the reasons also is I love decorating. I know you do, you guys do too. Your house is already beautiful. So you kind of have this feeling of wanting to bring people into that festivity with you. But at the end of the day, it's connection. It's just sharing with people you love, sharing food with them, just sharing your home with them. It's connection.
So, okay, we want that all year round.
Mm-hmm.
And we do feel that there are certain things on the calendar during this
Mm-hmm.
time of year where everyone has certain days marked off as days to
Mm-hmm.
gather.
Mm-hmm.
That can feel really stressful as
Mm-hmm.
we're leading up to the big events and then
Mm-hmm.
also trying to fit in all these other little gatherings or maybe different parties or whatever in
Mm-hmm.
there.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think we put so much pressure on ourselves right now? Or maybe I'm answering my own question. Why is this so stressful? Is it because we put so much pressure on ourselves?
Yeah.
And how do we deal with that?
Mm-hmm.
And then how do we pivot and say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I do want to make this special and I want to make it meaningful while reducing the stress level a little?
Mm-hmm. This is literally the question I ask myself every single year. So
Yeah.
I love that y'all are calling me a resident expert because I am still very much figuring it out because I feel like by the end of the Christmas holidays, as much as I ask myself, okay, what can I take off my plate? I still feel like completely burned out. So I will say this is a work in progress, but every year I'm learning something new. And I think part of the reason we put a lot of pressure on ourselves is we also live in a time where there is social media and we're seeing all these other these images of, oh, this is how other people are celebrating. But a lot of people that are doing all the posting on this might be influencers where they're literally running a business off of this. So I just think it's good for us to not set our own expectations for ourselves based on what we're seeing on Instagram and Pinterest. So just putting that out there. I think for myself, I have to at some point before the Christmas holidays in particular, get really clear on what are my priorities, like what are the traditions that are important for my family. Also, just asking yourself, I might be veering from the question, but you said what makes this stressful. It's like it's good to check in with yourself and say, how do I want to feel throughout this holiday season? It's like, and also that's a question I ask when I'm hosting a specific gathering. How do I want my guests to feel? And I think honing into some of those questions. But in general, if you don't want to feel frazzled, burnt out, exhausted by the time Christmas is over, then it's like, okay, well, instead, what if I want to feel peaceful. I want to feel present. I want to actually
Mm-hmm.
connect with the people that I'm trying to host and gather with, my family included. It's like, think of that and then kind of work backwards. And you're going to have to get judicious about what you're saying no to, because if you're wanting to host over the holidays, which I love hosting gatherings over the holidays. I mean, for many, many years in New York City, for example, my husband and I lived there I was there 11 years. He was there 13 years, but throughout our married years there, we hosted a Thanksgiving gathering every single year in our tiny apartment. And it was just something we loved doing. So, but I would also have to, there's things when you're committing to hosting a certain gathering, or if you're hosting a Christmas gathering, there's other things you might say no to. You might not attend as many gatherings. You might, it's just knowing what are your priorities and then kind of working around that.
Well, and you're a trained chef. So I would imagine that for you, most of these are self-imposed for sure. So
Yeah,
I don't think
self-imposed, for
people
sure.
coming to your house are saying, well, Anna's a trained chef. She better put on a big show for us. They're not saying that. But in your head, I would imagine that you're saying, well, I'm a trained chef and I need to do it at this level. So how do you fight that?
Again, like these are like great questions because I do have to work through my own expectations for myself. I've had to, for example, I'll give you an example. First year we hosted Thanksgiving in New York, I did all the food. Like people are like, what can I bring? And I'm like, just bring yourself, bring a bottle of wine. But I was like determined. It was my first time ever actually cooking the full Thanksgiving meal because I grew up going to a family gathering where everyone kind of brought a dish. But I brined a turkey for the first time. And I, had a tiny refrigerator and a tiny kitchen. So I was like brining it in a trash bag and didn't realize that when I took the turkey out of the trash bag full of brine and opened it on my counter, it would then go and all fall everywhere. So I was like my floor, my stove, oven, like it dripped down into every surface, every crevice of the entire kitchen.
No.
Everything was covered in turkey brine. It was a disaster.
Well,
Day
the
of
germs,
Thanksgiving.
like I just think of the germs.
Oh, gross. So gross. So I'm like, just spent 2 hours disinfecting the whole kitchen. It was so disgusting, So all that to say is it was this day that turned very stressful because I was trying to, do the turkey on my own, do every single side dish on my own, do all the things, set the table, get everything ready. And by the time guests started arriving, I mean, it ended up being a wonderful and very memorable day. But, the amount of dishes at that point, which I hadn't even had time to keep up on, and there was no place to hide it. So my friend got there early to help me do a few last minute things. And she's like, just put them in the bathtub. No one will ever know. Just put them in the bathtub because I had this little bathroom right off the kitchen. And so sure enough, we put it all in the bathtub and pulled the curtain, and that's where the dishes went for the remainder of the day.
I love it.
Apartment tricks right there.
But
I have a feeling she has hidden things in bathtubs before.
Yeah, it was like became a big joke. I mean, we for future dinner parties, that's what I would do. I didn't have room to hide it anywhere else. But for future Thanksgivings, I learned after that one, hey, don't do every single thing yourself. That's silly. Like just because I'm a trained chef, that does not mean I need to do every bit of the food. So let some of that go. So for future gatherings, it's like, yeah, bring a dish. Like I would usually do the turkey and like a dessert or a side dish, but I really made it more of a potluck thing. And the fact is for Thanksgiving, especially, people all have special dishes that they love. So if it's a Friendsgiving, it's fun to bring in elements from a lot of different family traditions. So I never since have ever done all the food at Thanksgiving, and I never will.
Well, and it gets back to what you were saying is start with your why, start with what you hope will happen and what your desires are. Because most of us don't have a desire of people will come to my table and gush about all of my food for the whole meal. Like that's just not, like we're happy to provide some good food, but it's not like that's the goal. That's not the goal of Thanksgiving. The goal of Thanksgiving is much different. And so I love that you said that because I think we miss that. Like we don't, and Alex and I love talking about Priya Parker, the art of gathering, but one of the things she says is start with your why.
Yeah.
Really name it, like write it down. And what is the purpose of this gathering this year? Because maybe this year is different than every other year. And we don't even think about that. But what actually this year makes Thanksgiving or Christmas different than it has before? And so how can we adjust our why even according to the context of the current year, which I think is so insightful.
Yeah, I agree. And one tradition that we always have at Thanksgiving, which is not anything like out of the ordinary, but it's something that has always been so special, is truly taking a minute after you eaten. It's usually by the dessert course, to just say, hey, like, tell us something you're really thankful for this year. And it's not, you could obviously say a one word, like, quick thing, but it's something that people take a minute to really like share. And it's beautiful. That's one of the things that makes the gathering so special. And it's interesting, since we moved to Nashville, a group of our friends now have moved our gatherings out to a friend's farm, and it's really lovely. And I'm not hosting anymore, just because it got to the point where there's just too many people and kids and everything. But that tradition has kind of been lost, because it's easier when it's your table and everyone can actually fit around the table. But when it gets to the point where it's like, there's the kids table on one porch and there's the adults table, and then people are kind of mingling, it's like, it's kind of hard to facilitate that. And I truly miss it. That was one of my absolute favorite parts of Thanksgiving. So I encourage anyone that is hosting a Thanksgiving gathering to just take time to do that. And even growing up, when we would have our extended family gathering, my immediate extended family, like aunts, uncles, cousins, like there was like 15 of us, we would still have post meal at one of our houses, like a little gathering like that, just to talk about, like, just because it is a day of Thanksgiving. So I feel like it's worth taking time to remember what you're thankful for. And it's a great way to connect.
So you had like a post-party party.
A post-party party growing up.
Yeah.
Yes. Because there was a lot of relatives there that
Uh-huh.
we didn't know as well. So
Mhm.
the closer crew would get together and talk about what we're thankful for with my grandparents. I looked forward to it, because our family wasn't always the most vulnerable when we got together. You know, there was a lot of like laughter and fun,
Mhm.
but I really wouldn't necessarily have known what people were struggling with, or, you know, and sometimes the Thanksgiving might have been just a way God had met them in a hard moment. So that was like a real picture of what vulnerability looked like with people who weren't always the most vulnerable.
I love
So
that. And I think that's so true. Like, questions set people up, and they give people freedom, because people
Mhm.
can choose how they answer.
Right.
But even as the host,
Mhm.
you can lead in a little more depth, and then that gives other people permission, which I think
Exactly.
gets us to our question of, what can you do as the host? And I feel like
Mhm.
you're hitting on this, but is
Mhm.
there anything else you can think of? Like, how can we as the host facilitate a meaningful, rich gathering?
Mhm. I think a couple things. If it's a seated meal, which I know there's a lot of holiday gatherings that are more mingling and that sort of thing. But I'm intentional usually when I'm having a seated dinner about obviously who's coming. And then I even think beyond that about who I would like to connect at the table. So I will usually do it some sort of a seating arrangement and seat people in a way that I feel like will actually facilitate that conversation. Just thinking, oh, these people. And it's nice to be aware of, like, yeah, put someone near someone they know, but also mix it up and maybe introduce them to someone you think they could connect with. So I think about the seating, and then I generally, for any like seated gathering, even if it's like a holiday dinner party or something, I would always have a group question. I love that. I think that, and we just talked about that with Thanksgiving, but I think deciding on a question is helpful. As far as like a different type of gathering where it's more mingly, I just think as a host, you just take a responsibility to just make sure to greet everyone and to kind of like be that connector. And I think that is a real skill, and it sometimes can be really a little bit challenging, because there's so many people there you want to talk to, but you have to realize you're probably not going to be the person getting into hour-long conversations. And your job is more of like a facilitator of like connecting people and then maybe going to the next place, but just creating an ambiance of warmth. And for me, I just also have to take some time the day of the gathering, whether that's right before or earlier in the day, to really pray and say, Lord, I'm setting this up, but at the end of the day, this is your gathering. And I just pray that people here connect with each other, that they feel your presence here,
Mhm.
keep me calm, because I can often feel a little frenetic as the, one who's facilitating all the details. So I think that prayer before is important too, because I think people feel that. I do that before
Mhm.
cooking classes too, when I'm about to teach, because I can get really nervous about the details and wanting to show up and be prepared and the expert. But then I have to say, no, Anna, that's not the most important thing. Like, let the Lord's presence shine. So
Mhm.
that's a big part of it too.
I think that's really a good distinction of this is not going to be the time for me to catch up with everybody.
Yeah.
This is my time for me to help people catch up with each other.
Yes.
And at least greet everyone, depending on the size of the event. And you kind of scale your ability to pay time and attention to each person, probably based on the number of guests who are coming and whether it's a come and go kind of situation or if everyone's arriving at the same time. But to be thinking of yourself more as what is it called? The circus, the person who makes all the
master of ceremonies, or I forget this. What is the
person with the top hat? What are they called?
Yes. The ringleader.
The ringleader. Yes. That you're making sure that all of the rings are happening at the same time. It's kind of the orchestrator of it all. And then if you are sensing that disappointment of, oh, I didn't get to talk to this person. Well, then call that person later.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just say, okay, note to self. I am going to make some significant time in January to be with this person or whatever.
I will say, I'll tell you guys two just brief little ideas. These are two very intentional gatherings I hosted in December. This was in years past, but they were fun and just ideas for something different than maybe your typical like cocktail party. One was a worship gathering, which was really special. Two of my friends happened to both be worship leaders, and I used to play on a worship team with them in New York years ago. We have this whole Brooklyn component in Nashville now, so that's been really fun. But we had a worship gathering, and like an Advent worship gathering, where basically we were going to sing all Christmas hymns and just have a time of prayer together. And there was maybe like 10 couples, and it was in our living room. I think we were going to light the fireplace, but it got a little hot. But you could imagine the fireplace vibe. But it was really cool. It was like the two guys on guitar, and then my husband just played like the djembe, and then maybe we even had 3 guitars, and then I play violin. So I played violin, and we all just my friend Eric that was leading, like he had printed out all the carols, so everyone had song sheets. It was wonderful, and I'd made a few appetizers and had some like mulled wine cider situation, and it was great. So we had a little catch up time, and then we came and we sang our songs and we prayed, and then we visited afterwards. But it was like to me, it was like the most meaningful gathering that whole Christmas. I loved it because it again, like connected you with the heart of like, why are we even celebrating? And it was so intimate and so beautiful. And everyone commented like, why we should do this every year. So as I'm saying this, I'm like, I'm going to make this happen again because it was so special. And then the other holiday gathering that was just fun. And like, I live in East Nashville, and Nashville's divided by a river, and people really like kind of like take pride over, I'm an East Nashville person or I'm a West Nashville person. And I have really dear girlfriends on both sides of the river, and a lot of them hadn't met each other. So I decided it was all women, an East meets West gathering, like a Christmas gathering. And people thought that was so funny and so fun. And so we just like had the East meets West, and that was the intention of it, that I wanted these West and East friends to meet. And it was a blast. Everyone loved it because they met, of course, they knew a lot of people that were from their side of town, but we all kind of mingled and new friendships were made. And so that was fun.
I love that, Anna.
Yeah,
that really I think that just gets creativity flowing even in our own brains. And I love that. I mean, just really thinking outside the box a little bit of what could we do in our community. I also love what you were saying about the host, getting back to the host who, it is interesting because I've had both experiences where you have a host who's really proactive and, hey, I'm glad you're here. Welcome, come in. Here's the drinks. There's the bathroom, whatever, if you haven't been there before. And then also I've had the experience on the opposite side where the host, is in a conversation, sees you come in, but kind of ignores you. And then doesn't, you don't talk to them until maybe you're leaving. And it feels so different. I mean, it really is like night and day, the difference.
Totally.
So I'm even thinking like as a host, how do I even stand at the door and then welcome each person and make sure they feel welcome there? Because that is our job. It is our job to really make sure that there is that communication of like, it is a joy to see you. I'm so glad you took the time to come because we're all short on time.
Yep.
So I love that. Thank you for that. what
Yeah.
would you say as a guest?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, let's go to the flip side. What
Mm-hmm.
can we do as a guest to
Mm-hmm.
just bring a spirit of warmth to the gathering?
I think, I mean, it's always nice to bring like a little hostess gift is just something kind to do. I think you guys had asked that as one of your questions, but I love at holiday. I mean, as if we don't have enough to do around the holidays, but I totally put extra on my plate and make up little hostess gifts that I can just have on the ready. And I can send you these recipes if you want to link to them in the show notes, but 2 things that are just cute and easy to make. I'll get a bunch of little mason jars and I'll make a big batch of spicy maple rosemary cocktail nuts. And they're so good. Just like the best snack in the world. Just bring a little jar of that, or I'll bring a little jar of my homemade maple pecan granola. So just a little, and I'll put a little, cute little tag around it, a little bow. And so something small that you made. I mean, again, you can make up a big batch and jar a bunch and just have them sitting ready, like take them to gatherings. Like people like a little something homemade. So and
Yes,
just
they
coming,
do. I will
yeah,
attest to, I'm like, they made me something. Like it
yeah,
is so special.
yeah. So I think, yeah, again, I'm not trying to make this pressure of like, you got to make it homemade. Obviously you don't have to, but I do think if you can make a batch and just have it ready. So it's just like you spend an hour one afternoon and you just have your hostess. I do the same thing for like teachers' gifts and all that, like just get it all done, have the jars, and then I'm out the door. Yeah, just come with a little gift, a big hug, thank you for having us. Like, I think the fact that I host a lot, I'm always so appreciative of other hosts because I know it's a lot of work, just even getting your house ready and all the things. So I think, and just coming with the openness that I'm here to connect with other people. I may even get in a conversation with someone I don't know, but just coming with an open mind and an open heart, I think that can help the ambiance of the gathering. And I usually actually ask the host too. Sorry, that just what can I help in any way? Like if I can like grab something in the kitchen, I'm generally like help in the kitchen if I can at some point in the evening. So offer to help if they need help.
Yeah, because I
Sorry,
love it
Alex.
when people who actually are helpful offer that.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people offer and you're like,
yeah.
I don't know. Go talk to that person over there. That would be helpful. That person's standing alone.
Yeah.
But from the like hands-on helpful, you kind of know who your
Yes.
friends are that are actually helpful. And Anna, I'd put you in that category
Yeah.
of you've got some skills.
Yeah, people know that.
Yeah,
they put me to work.
I will say, as an introvert that goes, if I go to a party, it's like a big deal for a couple. Both of us are pretty high introverts to go to a gathering where we're not going to know a lot of people, but we want to go to support the hosts because they invited us and we love them. That's usually how we end up somewhere where we don't know a lot of people, because otherwise we choose to hang with people we know. That I really do have to kind of psych myself up to say, okay, this is a place where we're pulling on our extroverted selves. And my job is to love the people in front of me. So it's partly going to help. Like I'm thinking of a birthday party we went to a few weeks ago. We didn't know anybody other than the birthday girl and her husband. And what I told myself is, it is loving of this couple that invited us to love their friends. Now, some of those people were like, no, thanks.
Yeah.
We were older by quite a bit in this group.
Okay.
So we were kind of feeling too like, wow, do we fit here? But again, like to just kind of put ourselves out there. And so I just walked up to some people, and that is out of my comfort zone to start the conversation. And so I just want to speak to the introverts in the room that it is okay to recognize this isn't how I'm naturally wired.
Yeah.
And it is good for me to go to parties and meet new people. And a great way to look at it is to say, I'm going to love these people well. And what that means is often walking up to someone who looks uncomfortable. We can recognize that somebody feels awkward, and to ease that awkwardness for them by being that person they're probably an introvert too. Going up and saying,
that's a good point. That's a really good point. Yeah. You're like going with like a service mind, and you have to fill up your own tank to do that, but just to go and connect. Yeah. That's good.
Okay, Anna, let's get into some of your best, your best hosting tips, because I know
Okay.
you're full of them. So just give us a rundown of what are some of those. Let us in on your secrets.
Well, gosh, it's come with a lot of, I've learned it the hard way, which is just doing a lot of hosting. And I will say to anyone that I think a lot of people are held back from even trying because they're like, oh gosh, I'm going to make a mistake or I'm not going to do everything perfectly. Well, of course you're not going to do everything perfectly, but just do it and try it. And again, coming back to that why of like, I'm doing this to love on other people. So that kind of puts that in perspective. Like not everything has to be perfect. You're loving on people by having them in your home. But as far as my hosting tips to make that possible, first of all, I don't categorize myself as the most organized person in the world at all. However, when it comes to hosting an event, I really try and hone in on whatever skills I do have organizationally, because planning ahead is actually really key. I will get my menu planned, like, as far in advance as I can. And so that I can kind of work from there. And I also try and figure out things that you feel comfortable making ideally. Sometimes I test out recipes at a dinner party. I'm not saying don't ever do it, but think about things you can make in advance, because the goal is when I'm having a party, unless it's really close friends that are cool with sitting at my counter while I'm cooking, which I definitely do that sometimes. But if it's a larger gathering, I think about things that I can make in advance, because I'm also going to be getting the house ready. I'm also going to be, keeping up with kiddos, and I'm also going to be trying to get myself ready. So try and just think of things that you can make in advance. So if I'm doing a dinner party, that might mean like a main course that could be like a one pot sort of thing that can be made in advance and reheated. And then some, side dishes that can be mostly, prepped in advance and then just tossed together. So do as much as you can in advance. If I'm setting a table, get that set like hours in advance. I try and do it even just the morning of, because that might take a couple hours, and I love it. I love setting a beautiful table. So I do that before. I try and this might seem silly to some people, but for me, like I really try and make a rule that I'm going to get myself ready at least an hour before, because I am the person that's like running around doing all the things. And then suddenly I'm like, oh my gosh, people are coming in 10 minutes and I'm not ready. And I've had to remind myself, if someone comes and wants to help out, like, sure, someone can help light candles or something, but they can't help me get ready. So get yourself ready so that you can greet people in a relaxed way and not in a like, oh my gosh, my hair is wet sort of thing. And I've done that before. So I've learned, don't do that. And so, menu way in advance and get as much of the food, like pick dishes that you can make far in advance, get your table set in advance, get yourself ready in advance. And, again, just remind yourself and keep harping on the why of why you're doing this. And whatever you can do to have yourself in a state of mind that is present and relaxed when guests arrive, that's the most important thing of all. Even if you have to let some other things go, even if you, pick up some ready-made food, but just if you can be present and joyful and truly like just feeling like I want to be here, then do that, do whatever it takes to do that for your guests. Cause they care about you enjoying the party as well, more so than having everything else perfect and you're kind of stressed out of your mind. That's not fun for anybody.
No, it's so true. It's not fun for anybody. And I will say, when we delegate food to other people, it helps us to be able to really focus on the main dish or whatever we are cooking. So that actually is a gift also, because then we can do a better job with what we are in charge of.
Yes.
And like you said, be ready ahead of time to greet people. I mean, that's one of my things is I'm a maximizer. So I a lot of times will wait to get ready. And it's not good. Every time I do it, I'm like, why did I do that? Because now I'm stressed getting ready. And that's the last thing I need to be stressed about right now. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's one of my other tips. You just hit on it. Is like, don't be a hero. Truly, like, let other people share the load. And I recently hosted a small birthday dinner for a really dear friend of mine. And there was just 6 of us. It was very small, but it was like 6 of the close friends. It was a surprise. And we all had come with a word prepared for her that we shared. And, but I co-hosted with 2 other girls, and it was one of the best experiences because one of the girls like brought flowers, brought wine, and put a lot of time and thought into that and like helped get the group gift. And another girl like made the dessert and made homemade bread and made an appetizer. So I could really just focus on getting the table ready and the house ready. And then I cooked some of the main courses. But I was like, wow, this is how it should be done. Like it was so fun sharing the hosting load with two others. So again, the more that you can share that and don't try and be the hero, I felt so much more relaxed and actually really enjoyed. And they took pride in the elements that they were contributing. So it was a real win for everybody.
I love that. It's beautiful. The power of community right there.
Yes,
Power
absolutely.
of sisterhood.
Yes.
All right. Well, let's talk recipes. You have a whole cookbook,
Okay.
Anna, the Yellow Table Cookbook, which I get to have in my repertoire, and I love it so
Yay.
much.
Oh,
And you really do know what we should be cooking during the holidays. So tell us, what recipes can we bring to the table?
Okay. Well, I have kind of two categories. I mean, my book is broken into, there's an appetizer section. So for, the cocktail party stuff, there's some great ideas for that. But I was going to focus in on for Thanksgiving gatherings. If you're going to a gathering and you're asked to bring a side dish, which many people will find themselves in that situation. I love decadent food, but I really also like healthy food. So I feel like at a very decadent gathering, which is Thanksgiving, I always tend to bring some sort of salady side just because I don't know if there'll be anything else like that. And I want to have at least one healthy thing at the table. So something that I've made for lots of Thanksgivings, this is in my book. It's a fall quinoa salad that has roasted butternut squash and some spinach and roasted red onions and pomegranate seeds and pine nuts. And so that's a really yummy fall salad that's really pretty and healthy. Another one, it's not in the book, but it's in my blog. This is like a go-to fall salad that's easy and great to take to a gathering. It's a kale salad with roasted delicata squash, which I love because you don't have to take the skin off of that. It's like easy to like roast with the skin on, and dried cranberries, toasted walnuts, and shaved Parmesan. And it has like a lemony buttermilk dressing. It's really good. And also if I'm invited to a holiday gathering that's like, could be Thanksgiving or Christmas, I make these little rosemary pecan shortbread bars that are so yummy, and you can cut them into tiny little bites. I always serve them if I'm doing like a little, holiday like appetizer dessert spread, but they're also great to take to a party because you can totally make it in advance and cut them into these little squares, and people go crazy over them because they're a little different with like the salty shortbread and the rosemary. It's so good. So those are all ideas of things to bring. Again, because you can make it all in advance. And then I kind of dreamed up a little like wintry sort of holiday. It could be Christmas, it could be Christmas Eve sort of menu. And again, I can like give you these recipes to link to if you want, but I have a pork loin recipe with a fig rosemary butter that's so delicious. And it's also great because you can prepare the fig rosemary butter, and you basically cut the loin in half and you put prosciutto inside and then put the fig rosemary butter, and then you tie it back up. So that can all be made in advance, and then you just roast it, before your gathering. And then I would,
gosh.
it's really
that
good.
Does sound so good.
It's really pretty. It's really pretty. And then I would make that with some really like, pretty haricot vert with a Dijon shallot vinaigrette. So it's like nice and bright and green and like something light to contrast with the richness of the pork. And then I would just do like simple, like crispy fingerling potatoes with some rosemary and garlic. And then for dessert, I would do a gingerbread bundt cake with lemon curd. So and again, that can be made in advance. So I know it might sound like a lot, but truly like the pork loin made totally in advance, the gingerbread and lemon curd made totally in advance, even the day before, if you want, for the lemon curd and the gingerbread. And then the other two are like very throw together last minute. So that would be a fun holiday gathering meal.
Yum. Well, it sounds delicious. And we will put any links you give us in the show notes for people to find. And then people all over the country are going to be having this meal for Christmas Eve.
Sure.
Send us your pictures of your pork loin at Christmas Eve.
The gingerbread and lemon. That's an interesting combo.
Yeah, it's really good. I love the like dark, rich, like spicy, and then the lemon, like the bright. I love flavor profiles. Like I dream and think about flavor profiles. Yeah,
well, and it's not something I would pair, and that's where I love, like when you go to. We just went to a restaurant the other day, and it was an incredible dining experience. In fact, Anna, you need to go.
Where is it?
Anna Restaurant in Leavenworth, Washington. It's like a
Okay.
7-course meal. They have one seating a
Wow.
night. It's like a 3-hour dining experience. It's amazing.
So fun.
But they
I would love it.
pair such interesting flavors that I would never put together. And that's part of the fun
Yeah.
is that you're surprised. You're like,
You get
wait, they put
ideas.
this with this. And, you know, it's so exciting. It's part of the experience that they
I
pair
would love it.
things. That's a surprise. So that to me, like what you just said with the gingerbread and the lemon, like that's a surprise. I love that.
Yeah.
And the
it's
quinoa
good.
salad, that probably lasts, doesn't it? A couple days.
Yeah, totally. Leftovers are great the next couple days. I love making a good grain, like healthy grain salad that I can eat for a few days for lunch, like just in general life. It's just otherwise I will not eat a healthy lunch. So bake it ahead. It's my advice. But I will say, like, confession here, the past couple years for Christmas Eve, we order pizza because I always cook a big meal on Christmas. And like, there's so much stuff leading up into the holidays, hosting. And also like, I'm a private chef. So Christmas is my busy season. So I cook a lot of parties. I do a lot of classes around the holidays. So by the time Christmas Eve rolls around and I'm generally still wrapping gifts, I'm like, I just finally realized we have a great, amazing pizza place that came from Brooklyn and is now in our neighborhood. And I'm like, yep, thank you. I have some pizza and champagne and a Christmas movie. I'm like, that is my Christmas Eve meal now. And everyone's happy.
I love it. Oh my gosh. I
no
love
dishes.
it. Brooklyn pizza sounds really good. We don't have that here.
Oh, it's so good.
Okay. Well, any ideas for between Christmas and New Year's, which tends to be a special time?
Yeah. Okay. Y'all are going to laugh. This is probably not where you thought I'd go with this question, but, so for the past probably 5 years, my tradition between Christmases and New Year's is, and Brandon's been like super supportive. I take a 24-hour solo retreat for myself because my daughter Evie has a birthday the 26th of December. So we finish up Christmas and then it's like, you know, we want to make Christmas the 26th, her birthday special because we're not going to lump it all together. So, you know, I've created these traditions where she wakes up and there's balloons and like, you know, it's like a special breakfast and Christmas night, I am like going into birthday fairy mode. So by the time all of that is done, by the 27th, 28th, I'm like, okay, mom's going to, you know, peace out for 24 hours. Maybe it should be longer, but I just check into an Airbnb and it's like actually so nice to just take a deep breath. And also it's like my time of reflection before the new year hits. So that is something I always do at some point between there. But this year, for example, my whole family is coming in town, like my sister and brother and nephew and niece and extended family is all coming in town. So we'll be doing a lot of stuff with them. So I think the special thing about that time, everyone's generally off work and, you know, has some time. Kids are off school. So I think just making sure to just be as present as possible with the people you love. And hopefully that time can just also be a little less pressury, you know, like you were saying, Alex, like, why do we put so much pressure on ourselves? I feel like once Christmas is over, hopefully some of that pressure can come down and we can just like go see an afternoon movie or go on a hike together or just, you know, enjoy being with your family, but in not such a like there's less expectations attached. So that's what I try and do.
Yeah. The energy level goes down.
Yes.
Because there's not a lot of expectation for anyone for anything really during that week. And so it can have that relaxing pace if you let it. And I was thinking that worship night you did would be great during that week in between if people are in town, because it is the season of Christmas. Christmas, I mean, for the church calendar is between the 25th and Epiphany. So
true.
We are celebrating Christmas for that good stretch. And that would be a wonderful time to have worship and it fits that relaxed vibe.
And you know what else is fun if you're wanting to get people together? I am all about like doing a like brunchy sort of situation where it can be like a daytime, just fun, like whether you have a lot of family in town, you know, it's like that amazing French toast casserole Dorina made, like make a French toast casserole and something else, some other things you can kind of make in advance and just have a brunch spread and hang out in the day. Sometimes that's nice where you're not having such a late night. We did that one year on New Year's Day instead of doing a big late night New Year's Eve. Like our kids were really little. We didn't want to do that. So we just did a New Year's Day brunch and it was awesome. It was such a great way to catch up with people that had young kids. And it was something we could all do and enjoy being together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And we've done that at Christmas time with a group of friends too, because we have so many basketball players. So between everyone's games in the evening in December, you're still in basketball mode. Basketball families, I feel ya. Because we're combining the sports season with the holiday season.
Oh
but
my gosh.
Basketball determined that we do a Christmas brunch, and it is so nice.
It's so nice. I love a daytime gathering. It's great. It feels more relaxed for whatever reason.
It's so fun. I love that. And we will link to Dorina Gilmore Young's French toast casserole. Okay.
So good.
Any last comments, Anna? This has been so helpful, but any just last words of encouragement or comments as we're wrapping up?
I would encourage everyone moving into the holiday season just to, especially I know that women listen to this podcast, but I feel like women can just so easily say yes to a lot. There's a lot of expectations. You want to be like the perfect mom and the perfect, create the perfect holidays for your family. But just remembering that, just figuring out how you can feel relaxed and present and let the other stuff go, let some things go, just getting in touch with like what is important to you and what's really going to matter to your family. And it also depends on the ages of your kids. If you have kids that are 1 and 3, you're probably not going to be hosting like multiple gatherings over the holidays. So just being realistic to where you're at in life and really pour into what matters the most to you and take care of yourself in the process. And it is still a work in progress for me. It is still because I can put so much expectations on myself, but I genuinely love the holidays and I love every aspect of it. And my kids love the holidays. So I'm realizing, yes, I can overdo it sometimes, but they tell me all the things that they love about the holidays. I'm like, okay, it matters. It actually like the traditions that I'm making happen, it matters to them. So I'm happy about that.
So good, Anna. Well, this has been incredible. Thank you so much. I think we all feel very inspired.
I hope so.
Not only prepare well for the holidays, but also figure out how to share, how to allow people to bring things to the table and also how to care for ourselves in the process. So thank you.
Yes. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you guys so much. This has been
happy holidays, Anna.
Yes. Happy holidays. Bye.
Bye.